Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. If you are going to kill me, do it before the ink dries on the marriage certificate, because once I sign this, I own half your soul. The sentence hung in the heavy, incense-laden air of the cathedral, sharp as the blade of the knife currently pressed against the pulse point of my throat. I didn't tremble. I couldn't afford to. The man looming over me was a titan of violence, a sculpture of malice carved from Italian marble and dressed in a bespoke tuxedo that cost more than my entire existence. This was the wedding of the century, the union of the declining Thorne family and the ascendant Vesper crime syndicate. The only problem was, I wasn't the groom he had paid for. My name is Julian Thorne. I am the shadow, the spare, the defective twin. And 10 minutes ago, my brother Adrian, the golden boy, the prized Omega, the one promised to the devil of the East Coast, drugged me, shoved me into his white silk suit, and climbed out the bathroom window to elope with his tennis instructor. Cassian Vesper, the man holding the knife, stared down at me. His eyes were the color of freezing rain on asphalt. He didn't look surprised that the beautiful, vivacious Adrian was gone. He looked at me, the trembling, pale copy with the ill-fitting suit jacket and the scent of fear radiating off my skin, and he didn't pull away. He leaned in, his lips brushing the shell of my ear, his voice a low, terrifying rumble that vibrated through my sternum. "You think you can threaten me, little mouse?" Cassian whispered, the steel blade kissing my skin just enough to draw a single bead of blood. "Your brother ran. The pact is broken. By rights, I should slaughter everyone in the first 3 pews." "You could," I managed to whisper back, my voice cracking but my chin remaining high. "But then the Rossi family sees you standing at the altar alone. They see weakness. They see a man who couldn't keep a bride. Marry me, and you save face. Kill me, and you start a war you aren't ready for today." The silence that followed was deafening. The hundreds of guests behind us shifted in their seats, oblivious to the quiet negotiation of life and death happening at the altar. Cassian pulled back. He looked at the blood on my neck, then up to my eyes. A slow, cruel smile spread across his face. It wasn't a smile of affection. It was the smile of a predator realizing the trap he walked into had fresh meat. "You are not Adrian," he stated, his thumb wiping the blood from my neck and bringing it to his own lips. "Adrian is a fool. You are something else entirely." He turned to the priest, his hand clamping onto the back of my neck like a vice, possessive and bruising. "Continue," Cassian commanded. "The Thorne family promised me a son. I don't care which one I break." The ride to the Vesper estate was a study in suffocation. The tinted windows of the limousine sealed us away from the world, creating a vacuum where only Cassian's dominance existed. He didn't speak. He sat with one leg crossed over the other, scrolling through a tablet, checking stock prices, or perhaps ordering the assassination of my brother. I sat on the opposite leather bench, the white suit feeling like a shroud. I knew why Adrian ran. Cassian Vesper was rumored to be a monster. They said he had killed his own father to take the throne. They said his previous lovers vanished. But Adrian ran because he wanted love. I didn't care about love. I wanted survival. For 22 years, I had been the invisible Thorne, the beta-presenting disappointment, the one who did the accounting while Adrian got the facials. I looked at Cassian. He was terrifyingly handsome, with a jawline sharp enough to cut glass and jet black hair slicked back severe and tight. He was an alpha of the highest order, a prime. The air around him crackled with the scent of ozone, burnt cedar, and raw power. "Stop thinking so loud," Cassian said, not looking up from his screen. "It's giving me a headache." "I'm wondering what you're going to do with me," I said, my hands folded demurely in my lap, hiding the tremors. Cassian finally looked up. He locked the tablet and tossed it aside. "The deal was simple. Financial liquidation of your father's debt in exchange for a breeding Omega. You, Julian, are a registered beta. You are biologically useless to me." The insult stung, but it was a familiar pain. "I can run your household. I can manage your books. I speak 4 languages. I am worth more than a womb." Cassian lunged. It was so fast I didn't even have time to gasp. He was across the cabin, his hand gripping my jaw, forcing my head back against the leather seat. His face was inches from mine, his eyes scanning every inch of my features. "You think I married you for your accounting skills?" He laughed, a dark, dry sound. I kept you because you have fire in your eyes, Julian. Adrian was a porcelain doll. Pretty vacant. But you looked at a man holding a knife to your throat and tried to negotiate a contract. His thumb stroked my cheekbone, the touch confusingly gentle compared to the violence in his eyes. But do not mistake my interest for mercy, he murmured. You are collateral. You will live in my house. You will warm my bed if I demand it. And when I find your brother, and I will find him, we will see which thorn is worth keeping. Life at the Vesper estate was a gilded cage. For 3 months, I existed as the ghost of Vesper Hall. The staff treated me with terrified polite reverence. I had my own wing, a library that rivaled the city's public collection, and an unlimited budget. But I was alone. Cashin was a phantom. He left before dawn and returned long after I had retreated to my room. We ate dinner together occasionally, at a table long enough to land a plane on. He would ask me questions, sharp, probing questions about politics, art, strategy. It felt less like conversation and more like an interrogation, testing my intellect. I learned quickly that Cashin Vesper was a man of absolute control. He hated chaos. He hated inefficiency. And, paradoxically, he seemed to hate the submissive fawning that most people offered him. One evening, 3 months into our sham marriage, the dynamic shattered. I was in the library, standing on a ladder trying to reach a first edition of Dante's Inferno. The heavy oak doors creaked open. I turned to see Cashin. He looked exhausted. His tie was undone, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar, revealing the hard lines of his throat. He smelled of whiskey and copper, blood. Get down, he grunted, walking to the liquor cabinet. I climbed down, clutching the book to my chest. You're bleeding. Observation noted. He poured a drink, his hand shaking slightly. There was a dark stain spreading on the side of his shirt. Cashin, you need a doctor. I need silence, he snapped, downing the amber liquid. He turned to glare at me, his eyes hazy. Why are you still awake? Plotting your escape? Waiting for Adrian to rescue you? Adrian isn't coming back, I said softly, stepping closer despite every instinct telling me to run. And neither am I. Sit down. Let me look at it. He stared at me, baffled by the command. No one commanded the Reaper. But the blood loss was making him sluggish. He slumped into a leather armchair. I fetched the first aid kit from the bathroom adjoining the study. I knelt between his legs, my fingers working deftly to unbutton his shirt. His skin was scorching hot. The wound was a graze, a bullet that had passed through the fleshy part of his side. Painful, but not lethal if treated. As I cleaned the wound, Cashin watched me. His gaze was heavy, physical. Why do you stay? He asked, his voice rough. I treat you like furniture. I threaten your family. I hold you prisoner. Because here, I am useful, I whispered, applying the gauze. In my father's house, I was a mistake. Here, I am just a prisoner. It's an honest dynamic. Cashin's hand moved. He caught my wrist. His skin was burning. You aren't a beta, Julian. I froze. The doctors said, doctors can be paid off. Tests can be faked. He pulled me closer, burying his face in the crook of my neck. He inhaled deeply, his nose brushing against my scent gland. A shiver of electricity violently arced down my spine. You smell like rain and ozone. Like a storm waiting to break. You've been suppressing it. Or someone has been suppressing it for you. I take suppressants. For anxiety, I stammered. My mother gave them to me. Cashin pulled back, his eyes clearing, sharp with sudden rage. Not anxiety meds. Blockers. High-grade, illegal blockers. They wanted Adrian to be the only omega to increase his value. They chemically castrated your nature to sell your brother. The realization hit me like a physical blow. My sickness, my lack of scent, my defectiveness, it was all manufactured? If you stop taking them, Cashin growled, his voice dropping into a primal register that made my knees weak. You will present. And if you present, God help us both. 2 weeks after the revelation, the storm broke. I had stopped the pills. The withdrawal was brutal. Fevers, aches, mood swings. Cashin had moved his work to the estate. He rarely left my side, watching me with a hawk-like intensity that was equal parts possessiveness and scientific curiosity. It happened in the middle of the night. I woke up drowning in fire. The sheets were soaked with sweat. A sweet, cloying slickness coated my skin. My body was aching, an empty, hollow ache that demanded to be filled. The air in the room was thick with a scent I didn't recognize, wild jasmine and honey, sweet enough to rot teeth. My door burst open. Cashin stood there. He looked deranged. His pupils were blown, so wide his eyes were entirely black. He was gripping the doorframe so hard the wood splintered under his fingers. "Julian," he choked out. "Cashin, it hurts," I sobbed, curling into a ball. "Please, make it stop." He crossed the room in 2 strides. He didn't offer comfort. He offered conquest. He ripped the duvet off me, his gaze devouring my flushing skin. "Do you know what this means?" he rasped, climbing over me, caging me against the mattress. "This scent. It's not just an Omega scent. It's a compatibility match. A 99% match." He buried his face in my neck, his teeth grazing the sensitive skin over my gland. "Adrian was a business transaction. You are a biological imperative." "Cashin," I whimpered, my hands tangling in his hair, pulling him closer. "Please. Beg me." He growled against my throat. "Tell me who you belong to. Tell me who holds your leash." "You," I cried out. "I belong to you. Only you." He bit down. He marked me. Not with a mating bite, not yet, but with a claim that bruised my soul. That night, the boundaries between captor and captive dissolved into sweat and heat and a desperation that had been building since the moment he put a knife to my throat. We existed in a haze of bliss for a month. The estate transformed. It was no longer a prison. It was a sanctuary. Cashin was still ruthless to the world, but with me, he was attentive, almost worshipful. He showered me with gifts, not generic jewels, but rare books, art, and ownership deeds to properties. "I am building you an empire," he told me one morning, kissing my knuckles over breakfast. "So no one can ever call you the spare again." Then, the world crashed back in. We were in the garden, Cashin reading reports while I pruned the roses, when the gate buzzer rang. The guards tense. A black sedan rolled up the driveway. The door opened, and out stepped Adrian. He looked terrible. His golden hair was dull, his clothes tattered. He had clearly run out of money and luck. Behind him were my parents, looking smug. "Cashin," Adrian cried out, rushing forward, tears streaming down his face. "Oh, thank God. I was kidnapped. I escaped. I came back to you." I froze. I stood there, holding a pair of garden shears, feeling the old inadequacy wash over me. The true bride had returned. Cashin didn't stand up. He didn't even put down his coffee. He watched Adrian throw himself at his feet, sobbing about how much he missed him, how he was ready to fulfill his duty. My father stepped forward. "Mr. Vesper." A terrible misunderstanding. But now, the natural order can be restored. You can annul the arrangement with Julian. He is, after all, damaged goods. We brought Adrian back. We expect the remaining payment. I looked at Cashin. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was the test. The logic of the Mafia dictated he take the pristine, public-ready Omega. Cashin stood up slowly. He walked over to where I stood frozen by the roses. He reached out and took the shears from my hand. Then, he turned to my parents. "Damaged goods," Cashin repeated, his voice dangerously calm. "You poisoned him for 20 years. You hid a diamond in the mud and tried to sell me a piece of glass." He pointed the shears at Adrian, who was still clutching his pant leg. "Get off me." Adrian recoiled, shocked. "But I'm your fiancé. Julian is just the stand-in." "Julian," Cashin said, his voice booming across the garden, "is my husband. He is the consort of the Vesper Syndicate. And he is the only thorn I will allow to draw breath if you do not get off my property in 10 seconds. My mother gasped. "You can't be serious." He's Julian." Cashin walked back to me. He wrapped an arm around my waist, pulling me flush against his side, releasing a wave of protective, aggressive pheromones that made the guards step back. "He is the only one who didn't run," Cashin said, looking down at me with a fierce, terrifying love. "He faced the barrel of a gun and didn't blink. He nursed me when I was weak. He is a wolf in Omega's clothing. And you?" He looked at Adrian with pure disgust. "You are boring." Cashin snapped his fingers. The guards drew their weapons. "Escort the Thorne family out," Cashin commanded. "If they return, aim for the legs." As the screaming started and my family was dragged away, I buried my face in Cashin's chest. He held me tight, his hand stroking my hair. I told you, he whispered into my ear. I own half your soul, and I don't share my property. I looked up at him, at the monster who had saved me from the people who were supposed to love me. You don't own half? I whispered, pulling him down for a kiss. You own it all. And that is how the Reaper claimed his shadow. If you enjoyed seeing Cashin destroy the Thorn family to protect his true gem, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive a family that drugged you for 20 years, or would you let the Mafia handle them? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then, prompt image. Prompt, masterpiece, best quality, high-res, 1.2. Korean manhwa style, semi-realistic, digital art. 2 min, BL, Yaoi, Man 1. Cashin Vesper, tall Mafia boss, sharp black undercut hair, piercing cold eyes, wearing unbuttoned black dress shirt with rolled sleeves, tattoo on neck, holding a glass of whiskey, expression of possessive adoration. Man 2. Julian Thorne, smaller frame, messy brown hair, soft features but defiant eyes, wearing an oversized white silk shirt that belongs to Man 1. Sitting on Man 1's lap, clinging to his shoulders, blushing slightly. Background is a dark, luxurious Gothic library, moonlight streaming through tall windows, scattered papers and books, red roses in a vase, moody lighting, cinematic composition, sharp focus, intricate details.